Hello, good morning or good afternoon, everybody, or the early birds that are online. I want to thank you very much for your time. People are starting to sign in as we speak. I'll just wait for just one more moment, 1 minute, and I will get the webinar started. Hang on just a moment, and thank you for your patience. Okay, everybody, let's get the webinar started. Again, I want to introduce myself. My name is Tommy Lee. I basically run the Fanvil in Americas, basically North America. Something in addition to myself, I will also be introducing you to one of my colleagues who is also a field engineer. His name is Hector Zarita. He is going to complement a lot of this how-to series demonstration with a hands-on demo. So I think it'll be very educational. So what I wanted to do is just to do some basic housekeeping before I get started. For those who have any questions, please feel free to fill out the question box on your client, as they come in, and both Hector and I will be more than happy to address those questions at the end of the session. You're more than welcome to stay on. And in addition to that, there's also a soft copy of this presentation in the handout section. So if you actually went to your handout, there is a PDF file that actually contains a soft copy, so feel free to go ahead and download that for your future reference. So what do I have in store today is really a how-to series 1. As you may all know, Fanvil has just released a cloud version of our management system. For those who've been working with Fanvil for the past year or plus or past several years, we've always introduced a download server, which you allow to basically download onto a server. And what we've done is we've actually released this new series, which we're going to enhance upon, which is the cloud-based system. Now, one of the largest challenges that we hear from our representatives, and for those that are entering to the marketplace new, is, wow, how do I go ahead and use this? And it's based on really a lot of the requests that we've gotten to put in and actually developed. This is the first of several series of how-to webinars to really give you a visual idea about how to go ahead and get started with this management system. Now, I'm not just going to jump in and get into the device configuration and go really to a deep dive, but one of the first things I realized is that everybody out there who markets the telecom industry has a very different business model. You have some of those that really operate more as sort of a high-level agent, some of those that behave as distributors, service providers that have third-party type of integrators that they work with, that deploy and work with phones. So what I wanted to start with is, how do you go ahead and manage all of these organizations inside FDMCS? And that's what I wanted to get into today, because what I'm going to look at is really 3 sections. It's going to be channel management, organizational management, followed by site management. And all 3 of these things really, focus on several different items within the management system, because when you look at this management system, before you even dig into what those things are, you really have to organize what is the right way to set up a really hierarchical, how do you set up your organization? And maybe when I clarify that, then on the next section, on the how-to series 2, we'll get more deeper into, where do you load the firmware? How do you go ahead and upload the firmware onto those devices? And those sections will follow along with demonstrations as well. So with that said, let me go ahead and go a bit further. So the way we're going to do it is we're just going to go over each of those sections that I outlined to and go through some of the how-to topics. And then following me, there's also going to be Hector, who's going to be driving the demonstrations, and you could do some Q&A. And we're going to actually be on board, and we might be able to do some interactive Q&A sessions if we could support something like that. But by any means, we'll go ahead and address it and follow it up with a Q&A. Now let's start with the first slide, and this is for really the people in the audience who are relatively new to Fanvil. So what I want to do is really highlight the cloud-based system that we have here. Now, Fanvil, for those who don't know, we really develop endpoints that cater to both business as well as hospitality suites, and those are our most popular models, which is our SIP endpoints. In addition to that, we also have SIP door access phones. Now, all of the endpoint devices that we've developed here are all SIP-based endpoints, so that if you're working with a SIP PBX, whether it's a cloud-based provider or an actual network-based provider, all of those cloud-based systems would be able to feed and read with any of these devices that actually touches the human finger. And that's what enables us to go ahead and do that. But the big challenge in doing that is, how do you go ahead and manage and expedite your deployment of all of these devices? Well, what we've come up with is a nice free service that we bring to all of our partners out there that enables you to, in this session, manage your organization, and follow-on sessions is how do you go ahead and configure these templates and how do you access all these resources. So instead of cramming all of those different topics, we thought we kind of divided into 2 or 3 different sessions and then provided you bit by bit to give you an opportunity to sort of address any questions that you might have. And so along with this management system, it'll automatically update our Fanvil FDMCS system. Many people know this as sort of a redirection server. Now, for those who are really already in the industry, we always offer a redirection service that not only can forward directly to the management system here, but it also can forward standalone to your particular provisioning server, or perhaps to the provisioning service in your PBX. Now, one warning I have to put out there is that for those who are really looking about getting into this management service, you really have to double check with your PBX provider, because what you're going to find out is that this service is great in not only providing management and being able to upload templates in a deeper level version, like updating buttons and things like that, but it may also conflict with the provisioning service that the PBXs that you're working with as well. So you really have to double check. Many PBXs that out there don't even have a provisioning service. In that case, it's a really easy decision. But many of those that have it, you have to find a way to juggle in which pieces actually work with what. So that's kind of a head start in enabling you to do that. And that really handles a lot about how we handle, the cloud or local server here that will service all of these devices put together. Okay. So for those that are unfamiliar, I just wanted to highlight for the people who have worked with our old former FDMS, this system right here is something that you could just download on our support site and our website. And the difference is that one you had to download on your own server. And although it provided many of the management capabilities, it really involved a lot of resources from our partners to be able to load the software onto their platform. And then now what we've done is made it basically hardware free to do this. What I will do is kind of go over quickly how to basically enable yourself and be able to exercise FDMCS onto the cloud system. So, and I'm going to go over that step by step. So not only is it hosted in the cloud, but it also provides a really high concurrency rate, so that you don't have to worry about how many systems you work on there, because we have it on a very reliable cloud-based system to be able for you as well as many of your partners to be able to do that. Supported devices. Now, this is just a snapshot of all the devices that are supported. It's not just the latest, but we went back down to some of the old legacy devices. So for those who've been working with Fanvil for a very long time, we do a lot of the easy, the mid-range, and the high-end phone systems as well, but we also do all of the hotel phones here, in addition to some of our industry door access and intercom products as well. So it's really the one system that allows you to encompass everything. Now, For many of people out there that might have a PBX that does provisioning, it might provision 1 or 2 phones, but what do you do for those phones that aren't necessarily provisioned by that? You know, like say the intercom systems. You might use this to end up supplementing, you know, those with that, and you could find whatever works for you to move forward. But you can tell that once you get into the system, the actual parts list is far more detailed than what you see on this list, but this is just a snapshot that kind of give you the idea on the different solutions that we do. Now, what I wanted to show is that these are all the different topics that I intend to talk about, which is the channel management, the organizational management, as well as the site management. And looking at these three, these are the things that we'll focus on. And in the future, we're going to identify other different topics with the resource management and doing device management, which goes into a little bit deeper, but that won't do any good until you have the organization set up. So this is why we started where we are. Now, if there are other topics that you don't see on this list, by all means, send it to me or send it to support at fanvil.com, and we'll go ahead and consider. And if a lot of people request it, then we'll be more than happy to go ahead and put that on. And if you have a specific request, by all means, contact your local Fanvil sales representative or sales manager, and they'll be more than happy to dig in for your specific details as well. Okay? So how do you go about getting an account from Fanvil? It's really, really simple. All you need to do is really email the Fanvil sales manager. You could do that just by sending it over to sales@fanvil.com. Or what we've also done is enable you to contact your local authorized distributor for handing out these links. And these links, we would ask that you identify your preferred email address. Many people prefer to have some sort of generic support or someone that's really involved in the admin level that's going to go over a lot of this technical stuff, of course, at youremail.com, and provide your company and contact information, and also indicate your region or country that you're actually in, so that we can actually assign a specific, Fanvil regional manager that suits you. That's pretty much all it takes. And what will you go through? Once that happens, you're going to end up getting a link that sort of looks like this. And with this active link that you get, this link is going to end up being active for 3 days. So once you get it, I'd advise you to maybe spend some time during that day and just define a username and access, which is what you'll see here. Once you click on this link, you're going to ask to be defined your specific username, which is typically your email address that you assigned, and then you could define your own password, all right? And once you define a password, it'll automatically log you in, and make sure you don't lose it, because replacing passwords is always a difficult thing to do. So let's start off with channel management. Now, channel management really is designed for very large service providers or distributors that really have a way that provides provisioning services. Now, depending on what model you're in, there are some service providers that work standalone. You may have a team out there that you may deploy to different regions and locations, but you're all standalone. Other service providers, on the other hand, work with their distributors for them to go ahead and provision phones for them. They may go ahead and say, I want all my phones uploaded with this template, or have these specific presetting done so that they can go ahead and ship to your site. And in that case, there has to be a joint level of cooperation. And that's where this channel management really comes into play. Or conversely, the service provider might be the one that stores the inventory and provides lots of Fanvil solutions to a lot of third-party solutions, and that's where you're going to have to deal with channel management. If you don't fit into those, then likely what's going to end up happening is the organization and site management is probably where you'll spend most of your time. But because this is really the high-level section, I want to start off here, but I have a feeling that most of the audience is going to take care of the channel as well as the site management, and I'll get into that in just a moment. What I have here is, how do you go ahead and set up the channel account? And when you do that, this is actually something that we do to basically set off a very independent link. And now once you send an independent link, they become sort of the admins of their own FDMCS as well, and we provide you with that. Now, if you notice here, this is why we ask for your email address, your display name, and how you want to do that. And in this case, you identify what channel, your company name, and therefore the link will be sent out, and therefore you will not have, you will have, like, in essence, privacy between you and the person that you set up as a totally separate channel. This is somebody that's a third-party independent channel, but that you are a provider to, that you can go ahead and do that. And you can also assign whether or not this channel actually has a sub-channel capability so that they can actually assign sub-channels as well. Some of the add-ons is that at this level, it also interfaces with your local ERP system. So take, for example, if you happen to source a lot of products, you can actually hook in to people's ERP system, and you can really download a lot of the different phones and programs onto this platform, and then you can then allocate each and every single one of these pieces to the sub channels that you might be working with. Or the term that we like to use here is using binding or unbinding. You can go ahead and bind, a specific set of phones or peripherals for company A, and then once you do that, you could bind it, give it to company A, and then company A can go ahead and unbind it so that they're totally independent from you, that you go ahead and provide. So if you think about what your business model is, this may or may not match, but you do have those type of capabilities moving forward. But the key thing here is that privacy is really respected in terms of having this channel account. So once you go ahead and assign this, there is very little, if any, visibility. Now I talked about binding the channels. And when you actually bind the channels, the end user actually has the equipment to go ahead and accept your binding. And once they receive it, the sub channel also as well has the ability to unbind it. So once you get it, now they're the owners of that, and they could go ahead and administer FDMCS just as you would, but you have a very high level viewpoint of notifying their name as a partner, as well as how many devices they have, but you do not have the capability of looking into their private information or their private subcontractors. Just in essence, what you would normally get, like a list of phone models that you go ahead and provide, and that's about it. That's something that you can get basically on a sales form working with you. And in that, you kind of get these little icons here that will kind of give you that, and this kind of gives you a quick channel management bound. But what I'll do is I'll have Hector move forward at the end part of this presentation to kind of give you a walkthrough as to how these things are kind of put together. In addition, I mentioned earlier that you could also enter MAC addresses and a lot of these devices through an order import. And as I mentioned earlier, many of these things has a requirement to bind it with an ERP account in order to have this operate. So once you put in this number, it will go ahead and look up what particular sales order and automatically pull in those specific things. So we started including lots of interfaces that enables you to be able to work with a lot of ordering systems, so that this goes well beyond just being able to configure devices, but it also gives you the ability to work with your supply chain and be able to sort of sort out all of the different suppliers if that is something that you do. Now let's talk into organization management. I think organization management and site management will probably affect most of our audience as we do moving forward. Now in organization management, what we allow to do here is that we give the organization the ability to really isolate different organizations. Say you are a service provider or an integrator, that maybe you want to go ahead and deploy phones under company A, and you also have a list of existing companies as well. And what you can do is you can list out all of these different organizations, and they can be worked independently. And that's how it ends up working. So once you assign it, I'm sure the Hector could go through and identify what are the different organizations that you could set up, that you could also see as a very clear view on the dashboard screen as well. And what you see here is really the ability here where in an organization, it's listed as default. Everybody's going to start off as a default account. And so, but you can name that default into your name, but everybody starts off as a default. And the more organizations that you actually list, you're going to end up seeing them all listed here as organizations. Let's just say, for example, you're a burger provider to McDonald's and Burger King or what have you. You can go ahead and actually identify all of these organizations as part of your organization plan. And as you click into these organizations, each organization will contain a whole line of sites. And these sites could be separate departments or separate organizations within that organization that you can divide up. Say it's a sales department, a marketing department, or an engineering department, or you can divide it up whichever way based on region, based on everything else. So that gives you a really high level way of being able to set up an organization, and that's how you do it. And the way you do it is you can go access the user screen and then being able to go ahead and add users, and you could just set it up with just a quick prompt, and that's something that we can go through later on. In addition to management, this is just another section here where you have the advantage to make it really easy from one location to, in essence, gauge. And when I show at the organization charts very early on, you could actually see a whole list of on the dashboard, a whole list of organizations that you could see which phones are on, which phones are off, and which ones you can actually set alarms with. And we'll go into setting up alarms in future how-to sessions. But the good news is that everything, you can list as many organizations as you want. But again, all of this is protected under privacy because all of the people that basically provided you with these links don't have visibility into your organizations. And the best they can show is just basic statistics of whatever phones that you have. And that's it amongst the templates. Now let's talk about site management. Site management is really the next lowest level. And in site management, this gives you the ability to set up different departments. So within an organization, you can say have organization A. In organization A, you could identify the HR department, the sales department, and the engineering department. And that's where you can really assign multi-level site management. On the other hand, you might have a very simple startup program where you might have different companies that are all local in your region. You could just set it up as one site management where you could set up many different locations just based on one site, and then you can divide up different organizations there. So you can really go into multiple levels. You could divide it based on organization, or you could set it up based on site management. It really depends on your specific business model. And that allows you to set up like almost a tree form where you can relocate, and then at the top level, allocate specific, generic MAC addresses into specific departments so that you know what phone goes where, and that you can really isolate alarms and things like that based on, this location so that you know how things do moving forward. Now the contact tools, if you want to go ahead, this is just sort of an idea where you can reach out for sales and support with our social media address. And again, as I mentioned, this is sort of our contact dashboard that you see here. As I talked about the organizations, you might see here that it actually lists out organizations here that you could see a whole list. And there are ways that you can sort through that. This is a very short screen which just shows you organizations and sites. Here they show you have 4 different organizations but 6 separate sites within this organization. So that means within these 4 organizations, one might contain 2 separate locations for that organization, and you can divide the accounts based on that. And you can look at your device, your accounts, and all the different statuses on whether or not all the devices are either a green status, a yellow status, or never even imposed status, where they've never even been registered. That's a quick way to really give you an idea about how to go ahead and see, what things are online so that you can manage a site far better. Now, with that said, I'm going to go and pass this demonstration on over to Hector, and I'm going to make him the presenter so he can kind of walk you through with some of the presentation. Let me see, make presenter. Here we go. Okay, I'm going to pass this on to Hector, and he'll be able to share his screen. Okay, Hector, I can see your screen now. Hector, are you on board?
Thanks, Tommy, for the.
Oh, great, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Tommy, for the pass. Hello, everyone. Good morning and good afternoon for all. A pleasure to greet you. My name is Hector Zurita. I am Product and Service Manager for Fanvil in North America and Latin region. And I join you today in this webinar to show you a little more in detail through our list demo, the functionalities that my colleague Tommy mentioned a few minutes ago. So I take this opportunity to let you know that through a series of webinars, we will be showing you each of the functionalities and sessions that made up the FDMCS solution. In this opportunity, we will take a walk through the sessions, channel management, organization management, and site management. Okay, so channel accounts refer to accounts created for agents, service providers, distributors, integrators, and corporate users. Okay, there are some principles that are important to consider in this session. For example, first level channel accounts are created by the Fanvil administrator, including various account types such as agents, dealers, distributors, and corporate users. Other point, when the Fanvil administrator creates a first level channel, he can specify whether he has the authority to create a lower level channel account. Other point, important point, first level channel account can create second level and lower level channel accounts. When creating second level and lower level channel accounts, you can specify the super channel account for very reference. And other important point is that channel accounts at or below the second level don't have permission to create subordinate channels, but by default, you need to apply to the first level channel for creation and specify a super channel account. So on the channel account page, you can only view direct lower level channel account. This is now displayed on the screen. Okay. In this case, as an account is associated to a super administrator, I have the possibility to create different types of channel, for example, reseller, distributor, TCP providers. Okay, the sticks to create a channel account are very simple. Just go to the Add Sub Company tag and then create channel account. Okay, create channel account. Then it will show you the configuration parameters and information that you must add. The mailbox, display name, company name is editable. Account type, the default is in enterprise user. Okay, can only be modified by system administrator. In the case of the super administrator, he can assign any of these types accounts. Okay, that is now displaying on the screen. Distributor, it is superior service provider, reseller, system integrator, enterprise user, and then the time zone corresponding to the region of the user who will use this account is configured. Okay, in this file, create sub-channel. You can define where the account will be able to create sub-channels. And this other file, okay, to allow the account to observe the sub-channels that are created. After the creation is completed, the system sends an email to the customer mailbox, which is activated by the customer, and the username and password are set. So basically, this will be the steps for the creation of channel and sub-channel in FDMS. Now, let me show you. Let's walk through the organization management. Okay. The organization management section, which is developed to facilitate remote management of all devices in different locations. Okay, allowing an unlimited number of organizations to be added to the FDMCS system. Okay, thinking about device protection, the top organization cannot see the detailed information of the sub-organization, such as device and configuration parameters, but only the statistics of the device and the size in general. So the first step to create an organization is to define the role to be assigned to each user. Okay. The screen shows the different privileges here. Okay. The screen shows the different privileges that we can give to the user that are going to be within a given organization. For example, we select only some sessions and others remain disabled so that they cannot make use of them. Okay, after having a day the user, each one with their corresponding rule. Okay, the organization can be added in the organization management interface. Please, one moment. Then the role name, for example, testing 1. Okay, submit for apply change. Okay, so then in the organization management interface, okay, select egg organization to enter the egg organization page. Will then show you the parameters that must be defined. Okay, organization name, asking users, okay, asking to determine user by default, and you can add other user. And the file description used to add a description associated with the organization. This way we can create different organizations and have an organized work structure among the user creating FDMCS. Okay, so finally, in today's webinar demo, we will take a walk through the site management session. Okay, the platform supports multi-level site management, and user can customize different sites according to regions, departments, and different roles to facilitate management. Okay, for example, in a company, there is a sales department and a technical support department, and in each department I have a specific number of devices. Okay, for example, technical support department, I have 1 device, and sales department, I have two devices. So the administrator can have an organizational structure of the devices that are in each department through site management. Okay, to do this, just click on Add Site to enter, and it will show you the following. Okay, username or site name, user defined site name is a record file. Okay, the parent site, select the parent site. If not, the site has no parent site. And site description. The site management list includes, you can see it in the screen, left parent site, shield site list, okay, MAC address, name, and model of device. After having the sites added, you can import device by bash and individually and associating them to each site as appropriate. So you can also move device within the site for easy and fast management of all device. For example, okay. If we can highlight something in these 3 sessions that we said that we said today, it is that they are developed to maintain an organizational structure within the FDMCS platform. If you know how to take advantage of them, they can be of great help to the administrator and the end users. Okay. So this concludes the demo section of today's webinar. Now we will start with the question and answers session. Please let us know through the chat box any question you may have. My colleague Tommy and I will be glad to answer one of them. Okay.
Great. Thank you very much, Hector. There is one question. I guess somebody put a question on, do we have plans to add 2FA or two-factor authentication for user accounts and a timeout setting, say 60 minutes? Very important if no 2FA. Yeah, I know that I've been operating this and there is a timeout. I didn't necessarily time out yet, but if the person just leaves it open, it does, the account does shut down, but I didn't time it. Hector, do you know if this FDMCS supports two-factor authentication?
At the moment, it seems to me that not, but I think that people is developing in future weekends. Okay.
Yeah. I think there's a follow-on question. I may have to follow up with Maxim on this one. Where do we send feature requests? If you have feature requests that you want to go ahead, you can probably send it to support@fanvil.com and just identify who you are. You know, we always are interested in seeing a lot of the features that our partners want out there. You know, show phone status like forwarding, off hook, you know, calls, etc. I mean, those are a lot of things. I think one of the things that we have, it either shows basic registration, but I don't know all the different features that we actually have on. You could register things like MOS scores and performance, but I don't know if whether or not something is really off hook, you know, showing whether or not there's a phone that's on or off on a remote basis based on looking at this management system. It could tell you, I think, right offhand where it actually says it's registered or something is actually unassigned or not on. It's more high level than the level that you're looking at specific functions. Okay. I guess thirdly, right now, the number of missed calls, dialogue on the screen of phones prevents the time and date from updating. Okay. I'm not sure which one it is, but I think in that one, you could probably send your inquiry to support, and I'm sure that there could be something that we can work around and get it, because we don't know what model it is. This could go into a far deeper conversation on that. Another question came in: is there any advantage of using this for phones that are on 3CX phone system? That's a very interesting question. 3CX is very big on using their provisioning service. They have a provisioning server which most of their partners use. And what I suggest in using on a 3CX is use their provisioning service but you could also use this management service to basically use passive monitoring, where you can go ahead and take a look at the status of specific phones. Because what you might find is that there might be some conflicts where 3CX might come in and give you, they reset your system, but they will throw in their own template onto the phone, which may override this one. This is why when I started this webinar, you might end up having to look at what type of system you're working with to make sure that you don't necessarily have a conflict in terms of what provisioning service you use. You should be able to use one or the other, but I wouldn't recommend both because it can be very confusing unless you can disable one or the other. But that's something that you'd have to kind of decide whatever works best for you. Okay.
Yeah, Tommy, just to add about this last query, the main advantage is the real-time monitoring and management throughout a single platform. Okay.
Yep. Correct. Yeah. In terms of monitoring, that could work on any system, regardless of the PBX system. The only gotcha here is that FDMCS can also provision and push templates on, but you have to make sure that pushing of the template doesn't conflict with whatever timing sources that you might have with 3CX or many of the other PBXs that are out there that drive other templates as well. So you would have to coordinate that, and you could have one or the other, but not both. Okay. That's about it so far. Is there any advantage of using this for a phone? Actually, I do have partners that do use it. There are some phones that are on a provision service that perhaps they may want to go deeper, but then yet, many of the provisioning services provide different levels of service. So you have to look at what you want to deploy and what is actually provided, and you can make a choice as to what you want to do and really decide how you want to go ahead and move forward with the provisioning service. But most people stick with whatever provisioning services on the PBX, because many people in the PBX may end up only supporting their own provisioning service, and they don't necessarily yield to a lot of the new added features that are provided by other services. But that's something that you would have to provide for yourself and decide on your own. Okay. I'll wait on if there's any other questions that come on. I'll wait 5, 4, or 3. Again, if something should come up after this demonstration, feel free to send your questions on to support@fanvil.com. We're very interested in meeting your specific needs to make sure that you're well supported and can go ahead and deploy our solutions with the least amount of issues involved. Again, I don't see any more questions coming in. I want to thank everybody for your time. Thank you, Hector, for your time as well. And we'll follow up with this session, and then the next session we'll probably get into more deeper how to configure and perform device management. I think in that section, that person who asked these questions might be able to get into a little bit deeper, because at that point you're going to go ahead and see perhaps what these templates will look like, and that way when you upload it, it'll give you an idea on how to put in your specific features that you want. Okay. And that may come in during the next feature, either the how-to number 2 or number 3. But we'll keep you informed. Just stay tuned, and thank you for signing in. Have a great day and stay healthy. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Tommy. Thank you all for attending. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Hector. Thank you.